Every car enthusiast has that one project that they have ignored for too long. This is mine, a 94 Celica that's been sitting for years. But it's time I try and bring this one back to life. So on today's episode, we're going to do a walk around and try to find everything wrong that we're going to need to address. So let's get started. Right off the bat, the paint condition on all the horizontal surfaces is pretty rough. The gaskets for the headlights need to be glued back in place. The molding for the door looks like it's pretty much toast. The drip rails on top of the roofline look like they're cracked and shrinking a bit. The glass, wing, and risers all look salvageable, but the rust on the rear hatch is a deal breaker. The Supra had the same problem in the same place, and unfortunately there's no good fix for it. It'll mean we'll have to find a replacement rear hatch from a 94 or 95 Celica, so I can use the same style spoiler and hopefully in black. But with a car this old, I'll take what I can get. Moving on to the passenger side, it looks like the rear quarter window is going to need a replacement, and although the door molding and drip rails look better than the driver's side, they're still going to need to be swapped out. I'm seeing a lot of dents in the hood, probably from hail, and it looks like the rubber gasket that goes around the vent has deteriorated quite a bit as well. My goal is to stay OEM for the exterior, but parts availability may force us to look at the aftermarket. Now the thing I'm most worried about, the engine. In the mid-2000s, I built and swapped in a 3rd Gen 3S GTE, and that swap was well documented on 6gc.net. That website no longer exists, which is really unfortunate because I'm seeing mice have been in here. I've got some chewed wires around the outside, and I no longer have notes or reference photos of how I put this wiring harness together. Something else I just realized was at some point I harvested parts off of this car. The heat exchanger for the water to air intercooler looks like it's gone, as well as the pumps, reservoir, and controller for the meth injection. I'll either have to replace all that or swap the intake manifold or one that hasn't been drilled out for nozzles. A great many of these vacuum lines also look like they're going to need to be replaced, but that shouldn't prevent us from starting up the engine. Thankfully, I've got a spare short block of this engine on a stand, and a pretty large back stock of parts, so I should have replacements for most of the critical components. And finally, the interior. I can see the tint is disintegrating, but at least it looks like it'll be easy to remove. The door cards look like they're not in terrible shape overall, but it does look like I've got some separation here, and I can see some light peeking through at the bottom of the door cups. So I'll see if we can find some better examples to swap these out. Overall, the interior looks pretty clean for 30 years old. I do see a split in the dash, and a small tear in the driver's seat, but overall in pretty good shape for its age. Unlike many other Toyotas of this vintage, the Celica does have cup holders, but functionally I think they're pretty useless. And it looks like I've got a lot of receipts, junk in here. I don't smoke, so this is also storage. And this looks like the cover for the door, which is cracked, which is why it's not on there. The floor mats are in need of a cleaning, but in surprisingly good shape. The radio bezel and AC vents look uncracked and intact. The radio's aftermarket and probably 20 years old, and it looks like it's actually peeling behind the screen. And at 167,000 miles, this is the lowest mileage car that I have after my IS300. So let's get our patient cleaned up a little and we'll pull it into the shop. It's certainly not at the top of the priority list, but it does make me feel better that when the car is wet, the paint actually looks pretty good, which means the clear coat is oxidized, likely has a lot of contamination in it, but there's a small chance we can bring it back. This morning, it's in the low 40s in my part of the world, hence the hoodie and the steam you see coming off the surface of the car. And I'll speed through the wash and rinse while we go over the list so far. Starting with the highest priority, we need to see if our motor is still viable. So first step is to pull the spark plugs, add some penetrating oil to the top of the pistons, and once it's had some time to work in, I'll try and turn the crank over by hand. If that works out and the engine turns, we'll change the oil, drain the tank, swap the fuel filter, throw in a battery, and see if it'll crank. And hopefully start. With the engine running, it'll be easier to check the function of the transmission, electronics, brakes, and suspension. Less critical, but still very important, are all the pieces on the body that will require replacements. This generation Celica was produced from 1994 to 1999, but that was 25 years ago now. So it's unlikely I'll find body panels, glass, trims, or moldings new unless they were shared across different models. So the majority of these pieces will likely have to come from donor vehicles and junkyards. So far, for the exterior, we know we'll need drip rails, door moldings, a replacement hatch, and a rear quarter window. Fortunately, the interior has fared a lot better than the exterior. That being said, I'm still going to need some seats, door cards, a factory radio if I can find one, and a replacement dash. And even though it's not a short list, it is the best case scenario. So more than likely, we'll run into some more problems as we dig in. So join me next time as we take a look inside the engine and find out if we're going to add a rebuild to our list.